To the Duga, the Everything Portuguese Soccer podcast by the fans for the fans. I'm Kevin. There's Christian. There's Mitch. Thank you so much for tuning in. We also have a very special guest today, Rich Ferreira. He's a longtime listener, viewer of our podcast. He's going to be joining in, providing some insights. Unfortunately, he's a Benfica fan.
We have to
So
even
all
things
that
up here.
is-
I am always short-handed here against two Sportingistas.
Yeah,
We have
well,
to
that's
even
because
it
that's
up.
the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
We're going to bring him in just a quick second. But wow, we're going to get things started here with the World Cup qualifying playoff draw. Nostradamus, Mitch over there last week did say that he had a dream it was going to be Portugal, Italy. And while dreams do come true as Portugal drawn into the group of death, which seems to be a normal thing for Portugal. We always get put into a group of death, but legitimately, we're in trouble, boys.
Yeah, it's Turkey is already going to be a challenge in itself. They've got a lot of really talented players. So that game in itself is going to be, challenging. And then, of course, Italy should beat North Macedonia. So if we do happen to beat Turkey, we've got, the reigning European champions to go up against.
And I just want to jump in, just so people maybe aren't familiar with the flags there. So Portugal is drawn into Path C. So they'll be taking on Turkey in the first semifinal. Italy will take on North Macedonia. The winners will play each other. The final will be played in either Portugal or Turkey. So, Christian, what do you think, man?
Yeah. Honestly, everybody's talking about Portugal, Italy. We got to make it through Turkey first. And you know us, right? It's not going to be easy. Turkey's a good team. Although I was wrong, the last Euro, I predicted Turkey to do really well.
Same as
Actually, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not going to be an easy game. But yeah, like Kevin said it perfectly, man. Portugal always gets drawn in the group of death. But I wanted to add on one more thing to what Kevin said. He said Mitch dreamt Portugal, got Italy, but he also dreamt that we beat them. So hopefully you got that right too.
Rui Costa was on the field, so it was
who knows, man? You might have to
Mitch,
call him up.
You gotta hold off on the awkward event at night or whatever. You know what, though, Christian, you make a really good point about Turkey, because I think no one wants to overlook Turkey. Since September, they changed managers. So in September, they brought in a new manager, and Stefan Kuntz, who played for the German national team, won Euro 96. He was a manager with the German U21s, where he won 2 Euros in 2017 and in 2021. Since he took over, they've scored 11 goals, conceded just 3 goals, 3 wins, 1 draw. Turkey is the real deal here. It will be a very difficult game. And I think there's a lot of questions that need to be brought in here. What does Fernando Santos do? What kind of format are you looking at? Because some people are saying, well, let's just try something completely different. Is it time? Is it appropriate to experiment in a game like this? So that's question number 1. And then question number 2 is, where do you actually play the game? In what stadium would you play the game? And we'll get to that in a bit. But let's talk about what Fernando Santos should do as well. So I want to bring in Rich Ferreira as well, so he could join in the conversation. So, Rich, thanks for joining in to the Tuga podcast. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate you guys bringing me on, and you guys are doing great in the community. We need more positive vibes going forward, because it's been a tough year, very tough year, and it's only going to get tougher.
Yeah.
It is only going to get tougher. So, all right, guys, I'm going to throw it out there. Let's start with the first things first. What does Portugal need to do to get past Turkey? And is it a matter of, is it appropriate to be playing around, experimenting with some sort of different formation or whatever to try and get the W?
So what's the definition of insanity? Can you guys let me know? Doing the same thing over and over again.
Educate me.
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over and hoping for a different result. So 4-3-3, is not working, especially since Mitch. I don't want to take away from what you said. He said it right. We don't play good with the 3 at the back, the 3-4-3 against the. So obviously the 4-3-3 against the 3-4-3 is not working. So I think for this particular game, we do have to change. whether it's new players coming in, different tactics, different formation. So in my opinion, something's got to change. I don't know what you guys think, but that's my opinion.
Richie, what do you think, buddy?
Luckily, Turkey plays a flat 4 and not 3 in the back, because we seem to struggle with that, right? As you guys well noted there on the last podcast. But Turkey's not going to be easy, man. And just the lack of cohesion that Portugal shows in these last few games in qualifying has been shambolic, to say the least. And they're going to need to find the right remedy to get a win, and then you got the tough task in the follow-up game if we get through Turkey.
Yeah, and they've got a talented group of guys, man. Çalhanoğlu from Inter used to play for AC Milan. Got transferred to Inter. He's always been a great midfielder. Yilmaz from Lille is there too. Like, they've got a very talented squad. Yeah. Now, Kev alluded to the fact earlier that we all know they had a pretty piss poor Euro, which I think was all to our surprise. I know you and I talked about Turkey potentially being a little bit of a dark horse. They didn't end up being that dark horse. They got ripped apart a little bit in the Euro. They did get beat. I'm just looking here at their past results. September 7th, they lost 6-1 to the Netherlands, and they tied Norway 1-1. They beat Latvia 2-1, and then they beat Gibraltar 6-0, and then Montenegro 2-1. So they've had some really up and down kind of results. But it's mata-mata. Anything can happen, man. Anything can happen in a.
But okay, so you said they lost that one game?
They lost 6-1 to the Netherlands, and then they tied 1-1 with Norway.
So I wonder if that loss against the Netherlands was under the old coach, right? Because they haven't lost under their new coach.
They haven't. If they haven't lost under their new coach, then their coach was probably sacked after the 6-1 defeat.
Yeah.
So and then like I say, no mata-mata, anything can happen. But we do have home field advantage, and Kev, you alluded to this. The big question is, where do you play? Where do you play these two games?
So let's talk right there. Estádio da Luz. I said it last week. To me, it's the best stadium in Portugal. Shitty team, but best stadium. Portugal's lost their last 2 games there. 2-1 to Serbia, 1-0 to France. They also lost against Turkey in 2012 in a friendly 3-1 at the Estádio da Luz. So I think that right there, it's a no-go. So then I think logically you look to Porto and you go to Estádio do Dragão. They lost the opening game in 2004, 2-1 to Greece at Euro. But since then, it's been a 10-game unbeaten streak, including a 4-1 win over Croatia in 2020. So I think the decision is pretty simple. You play the games up in Porto.
I mean, I know what you're saying, and on paper that looks good.
Here comes Estádio Alvalade. Here it comes.
No. But I'm all for not playing at the Luz. I'm with you there. No, but all jokes aside, I don't think that's what we should be looking at. We should be looking at what we talked about. What I was mentioning earlier is the formation we're going to play.
You want the game in Ladia,
or Aveiro, or actually Kazagish. You guys got to say anything about Kazagish? No, but we got to really concentrate on how we're going to line up and what players we're going to call up for this. Because like I alluded to in the last few podcasts, we had 16 changes in 2 games. What's our identity? That's a big thing for us. What's our identity? How are we going to go about this? Manchester United just got, a new coach. And one of the main things he was talking about is the players got to know what their role is. And I don't think we have that in Portugal. I don't think players know their role in Portugal. And I think they're stuck between 2 generations where before Portugal was a very defensive, hard to break downside. And now they're trying to transition into a different style of play. I feel like they're lost. I think that's what we got to concentrate going on these 2 knockout games.
I would agree with that, man. We've always talked that Portugal doesn't have an identity. Mm-hmm. Fernando Santos was talking after this draw came out. He was saying, I wish the games were in December. I think there's too much time. And to me, that
there's a point to that.
There's a point to that. Yeah. He feels like the players are hungry, and because you kind of lose a little bit of that, with 3-4 months, you lose a little bit of that garra that they have. They just got humiliated at home, he wants to get back in there right away. So there's a point to that. But I also, on the other side of that, I think having some time could potentially be a good thing for him to try to readjust his thinking a little bit and really take some time to figure out what the hell he's going to do for these 2 games.
Or he overthinks it, and he has too much time to overthink it, and then it becomes a problem. But I also think it's a wonderful time for Jota to, prove himself, as he already has, to join the national team. As Christian smiles, he knows.
The other Jota, you got to be very specific.
That's right.
Well.
The Celtic Jota.
Yeah,
the Celtic Jota, who should be on the national team. The guy's a beast right now.
Yo, I wanted to add, can I just add on to that? I'm going to pull it up real quick. Jota just came
amazing,
up.
I know.
So he just said this. I thought I'd add on. Okay, he's right here. So he said, não sei o que o Benfica estava a pensar, mas a minha família está feliz. I'll translate. I don't know what Benfica was thinking, but my family's happy in Celtic. I don't know what you and Mitch and Richie thinks about that.
Listen. Let me just chime in here. This guy was given his opportunities left and right, week in, week out. He didn't make the most of it, and then that's what happens, right? So he got his chance now. He's got more playing time. He's playing well. Let's get real. It's the Scottish League. Let's not get let's not get too excited. But alluding back to Portugal and the lack of identity, what bugged me the most about that loss to Serbia was the fitness levels of our team. Fitness levels they're not there at the highest level for some reason. How we take our foot off the gas after winning 1-0 is unexplainable, right? And same thing goes with Jorge Jesus. I see Benfica, they press first 5-10 minutes, everybody's excited, everybody's got full energy, and then it all just seems to dissipate, and then we just kind of start relaxing, start defending, start ball watching. You start getting narrow, you start playing back behind your own half. Like you guys noted when Cancelo didn't pass half, right? Stuff like that needs to change. The fitness levels, the mentality of pushing forward. Even when you're up 1-0, keep going, right? The best defense is offense, right? Like the old saying.
But Richie, how much of that is the players' fitness levels and how much of that is the coach implementing the tactic of when we went up 1-0, okay, let's sit back, let's defend, because they were good with a 1-0 win. They were good with a tie. So part of me thinks it's Fernando Santos saying, okay, now let's drop back, let's sit back, let's just defend, let's hold the result, right? I think there is a good point into the fitness levels, but I also think there's the tactic there that Fernando Santos, because he likes that. He likes that style. He likes to sit back. He likes to invite the players because he likes to play the counterattack. And I actually said, when we scored first, I actually thought it was a good thing because I thought that fell right into how Fernando Santos likes to play. But then to Richie's point, were they just lacking the energy? Because normally, in a perfect situation, that's how we're most dangerous. We've got one of the most lethal counterattacks in the world. We've got so much speed, but we weren't able to make it happen. So was it the fitness levels or was it just poor tactics? Like I don't know what the answer is.
I honestly think it's what you said, Mitch. I think it's the coaching, because I alluded to this on the last podcast. If these players were showing the same, outtake on their teams, if they looked like they lacked fitness on their teams, you could say that. You see the exact same players, and again, I mentioned this last podcast, literally become the best players in the world in their position. Like you go player for player, most of those players are some of the best in their position in the world. They know what they got to do on the field. Then you go to Portugal, and it's completely different. And I know I alluded to this again, but I'm going to mention it again because I feel like it's so important. After that Ireland game, he's like 0-0 is the same as 5-0. So when you talk like that, even if it's true, even if the players know that in the back of their heads, when you say that, it sort of gives off that 0-0 is good. Let's hold the result kind of mentality instead of go there for the kill kind of mentality.
That's right.
And
it's efficiency.
Like said, it's efficiency. And there's certain things that as a coach that are facts, but you don't implement that to your team because then the team feeds off that. And you see it in Portugal, man. Like you said perfectly, Mitch. When we went up 1-0, they were like, okay, it's time to defend. Instead of no, let's go get the second. No, let's get the third. No, And that's where I feel like the coach is lacking, man. And yeah, that's
Okay,
where I sit on it.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here and have this continue on and on and on. But I will say this. There is, at some point, you can't just be playing all out attack and all out offense all the time. You have to also play smart in the sense of what's the risk reward here, right? Now, I'm not saying they scored their first goal 2 minutes into the game. There is no reason why they should have immediately gone defensive and just start playing back, because there's still 88 minutes to go. 100%. You still got to, play strong and all that, for at least for a certain period of time. If he were to decide, you know what, second half we're going to play a little bit more defensive, a little bit more conservative, sure, no problem. Because at some point, what you don't want to do is you're going all out on the attack, then you're opening up yourself to the possibility of giving up the counterattack and all that, right? You don't want to make that happen. So there is some strategy there. I do think it's a little too conservative on France's side, for sure. But you can't go all out attacking either.
Yeah, for sure. And like you just finished off what you said perfectly. I feel like it's okay to be conservative sometimes, but I feel like Fernando Santos is too conservative, and that's what happens.
So let me ask you
a little bit
too
conservative.
This is so the two games that we're going in. There's one big difference between the last two games that we played against Ireland and Serbia, and that's that un empate não serve para nada. We can't tie these games to get through. And mata-mata, we have to win. It's a have to win. Do you think that changes Fernando Santos' strategy? Because as you said, he went into the game against Ireland with the mentality that a 0-0 draw was the same as a 5-0 win. And we went into Serbia knowing that either a win or a tie would get us through. Do you think the fact that these are two must-win games, do you think that changes his mentality and his tactics or his strategy?
I feel like it's better for Portugal because we have a lot of game breakers. We have a lot of big game players. I feel like these guys are going to be up for it. I really think so. I think that, in my personal opinion, will benefit Portugal compared to a game where they need to draw. We have guys like Ronaldo. He fucking lives for those moments, man. We all know throughout his whole career, he loves Champions League knockout football. He loves anything where the spotlight could be on him. He fucking gets up for it, and he usually shows up. So I think in that aspect, it is that difference is good. And knowing that a lot of these players, even guys like Bruno, I didn't even think about this, could be their last World Cup. By the next time the next World Cup comes around, he's going to be 32 years old. With the amount of talent that we have coming up, it's not guaranteed for him. So there's a lot of big game players that are going to be up for these knockout mata-mata jokes. So I think in that aspect, it can help.
Well, just to go back to the Serbia game, like Serbia is not a fast team by any means, right? They have a big target man up front. They like to play the aerial ball, overpass the midfield, play direct, and that's how they beat us, right? So it's a matter of we have to control the ball better in the midfield, right? We have the players to hold the ball. We have the players to spread the ball vertically to get forward fast in those indirect false forward positions, and we're not exploiting these teams properly, right? And instead of playing to our strengths, it seems like we're playing into our own weakness, which is our own mentality of not trying to kill games. Because Portugal used to have this aura about them when you play Portugal. Holy shit, man, this is going to be a tough game. And now it's like, oh, we can beat these guys, right? Oh, there's a ton of footage out there, right? There's a ton of footage with every formation out in the world, right? And if we're not studying it properly, then the manager is always to blame. Because, like you said, these players, top level, they all play individually brilliant on their own squads, right? So it's sad times for Portugal right now. These guys need to smarten up.
So before we move on to other stuff, let's just go around the room. Portugal, Turkey, who wins? We'll start with you, Mitch.
My heart's always going to say Portugal. And in any normal circumstances, this should be a team and a game that we're winning easily. We all know that's not the case today. The one good thing is Turkey doesn't seem to have a lot of experience playing with three at the back. So I don't know that necessarily they're going to be confident enough to deploy that tactic against Portugal. If they do, I think it could be a big challenge for us. I think Portugal is going to be up for it. I think the players are going to rally around the fact that they want Ronaldo in the next World Cup, and I think we beat Turkey hands down.
Rich.
Right now, it's not very hopeful. I'm thinking extra time, maybe get it done in extra time, and hopefully, if we don't, then in penalties. Right? Obviously, my heart is with Portugal all times.
Christian.
Yeah, we have a podcast called Tuga, so I'm not going to go and go against. I'm not going to go against Portugal, but I do think I agree with Rich. It's going to be a very tough game. Turkey, one of their strengths is they're a lot like Portugal, where they play better, usually besides the last Euro, in bigger games. They have a history of it. It's going to be very tough. They're going to be up for it. They're going to be rallied. They're going to be motivated. I think it's not going to be easy. I think that we can get it done in extra time. I think so. I think it's not going to be one of those blowout games. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe it's just that hangover from the Serbia game talking. But I do think it's going to be a close game. But yeah, I'm gonna go Portugal for sure.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think Portugal should pull it out. I hope they pull it out. Turkey scares me. I agree with Rich. I think it's going to be a long game. It could go extra time or penalty kicks. But I do think Portugal, especially home field advantage, unless they're playing at the Luge, then we're in trouble. But I think that Portugal should be able to pull it out. And then it's either North Macedonia or Italy. Italy should win that game. North Macedonia is pretty dangerous too. But assuming Italy wins, I mean, that's going to be a heck of a game. That one would go to penalty kicks for sure. There's no doubt in my mind. And I want to say one quick thing about Portugal-Italy. Remember, Portugal was the last team to beat them before they went on a 37-game unbeaten streak. So it's not like Portugal can't get a result against Italy. It'll be tough, but we'll have to see what happens. So lots to go on there. Those games will be played March 24th and 29th. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And
let me just make one comment.
Yep.
If it's Portugal, Italy, and if I had to choose between losing against Italy or losing against Turkey, I'd rather we lose against Turkey, fire Fernand Sanch, and regroup, because I cannot stomach losing to Italy, and Italy being the reason that Cristiano Ronaldo does not get one more crack at a World Cup.
Yeah,
I would
especially
not be
after
able
leaving
to
Italy.
sleep at night. I would not be able to stomach that. So if it's not beating Italy, I say we lose to fucking Turkey. Fernand Sanch, like Christian, you said, beijo, queijo, fuck off, and let's regroup and let's think of the next tournament.
Yeah,
I agree with him. I agree with Mitch, but as long as you play well, if you lose but play well and you leave it all out there, then what can you do, right?
Like the Belgium game, right? In Euro.
Yeah.
It was same thing. All right, boys. Lots on the club level to talk about. Before we get to the Lisbon Derby, which is what everyone really wants to talk about, just want to bring up the Champions League. First of all, congratulations to, of course, Sporting. Of course, who already booked their spot in the round of 16. Only the second time in club history that they're in the round of 16. So well done to them. They've certainly earned it. Will they be joined by Porto and Benfica? It's going to need some work there to get that done. Porto currently in second place. Hey, if they beat Atletico Madrid, they move on. But a draw, they'll need AC Milan to draw or lose against Liverpool for that to happen. And then there's Benfica, which actually they're kind of in a pretty decent position, even though they're in third, because Barcelona goes up against Bayern Munich. So Bayern should win that game. So as long as Benfica gets a result, Benfica should be moving on as well. What are you guys thinking here about Champions League?
Yeah, well, I gotta say, man, Ruben Amorim is, and I was a critic of him when he first went there. I'll be the first one to say it. I'll take it on the chin. I thought it was expensive. I didn't even know who he was really. I know who he was player level, but coaching wise,
Thank God you guys have such a great president that really.
it's not the time for this, all right. But no, all jokes aside, he's really got that locker room going right now. He's done really, really good. One thing that I've noticed, there has been a culture change at Sporting. So when we lost, and Ruben Amorim talked about this, when we lost 5-1 to AC Milan, the players walked around the stadium and the whole entire stadium applauded them the whole time. They applauded them. They still applaud. They lost 5-0. The whole stadium applauded them. And then Ruben Amorim said that was one of the best moments that he had at Sporting. And that really rallied.
After which game?
Ajax. When we got spanked by Ajax.
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, man, we don't have experience. We, we're not going to do anything. This just shows that, European, like the European level, Sporting is not good enough. The next game, we were still without a lot of big players. We lost 1-0, but you can see the growth in that team. They're really organized. They got up. They played really well. Borussia Dortmund won that game, but it was just by like a half chance. It was very 50-50 game. Then the two Besiktas games came, and we showed up. We had a full squad. We played really well, really confident, and we spanked them in both games. And you can see them growing with momentum. And then, coming in that Dortmund game, all we needed is a 2-goal lead, and they were up for it, man. They came in guns a-blazing right from the first minute, going. And, man, I know Borussia Dortmund was without a lot of guys, but, player for player, if you look at what their, squad worth is, like 2-3 times higher than ours, man. And we went there and we deservingly won that game. We played really well, really confident. And a big player for us, and a big change compared to the Ajax game in that one, was a guy named Pedro Gonçalves. He has 4 goals in 3 Champions League games. He's one of those players where you look at him, you don't really notice him. You don't really know him. It's much like Ronaldo nowadays, a lot of his games, where, he's quiet. Sometimes like, man, I don't know maybe we should sub him out, but he's one of those really dangerous men. He gets a half chance, and it's, it's in the back of the net. And I also got to add on to this. Last year, a big critic of Ruben Amorim was that we were doing well because we had no fans and we did not go in Europe. And I know it's still early, but, we're in all the competitions. We're in the Portuguese league. We're in the Taça. We're in the league. We're in the Champions League. And right now we're tied for first place. So,
you just jinxed it.
It's okay. It's okay. But I'm just saying it's a long season. Anything could happen. But, this guy's definitely punching above his weight level, and we're doing really, really, really well. And, obviously in the round of 16, there's a lot of great teams, but Sporting's not going to be easy to knock out, man. The way they're playing, they're very united. There's a big togetherness. We're very hard to break down. And we have guys, up front that can score.
My concern with Sporting at this point, and I'm going to give all my Libertines credit. You guys played really well. Full credit to you guys. And I don't. There's nothing more than I love than seeing Germans losing in Portugal. So even if it's the Sporting, I will be cheering. But the one thing that concerns me with Sporting, to your point, what a difference in level of play that they had without certain key players. For example, against Ajax, they were missing Coates, they were missing Pot, they were missing a couple of other guys. I think was still missing. What concerns me with Sporting is their lack of depth. You see the massive gulf in class in a game where they were missing 3 or 4 key players to when they have those key 3 or 4 players. And that to me is where, if I'm a Sporting fan, that's where I'm concerned the most, is that there's that big of a difference in the quality of play when they're missing 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah. So those 3 players, to add on to that point, and honestly, you are right there. You are right. Take nothing away from what you said. It is true. But I think there's only 3 positions where that falls into play. And that's Coates, that's Palhinha, and that's Pedro Gonçalves. I feel like Palhinha is a monster in the midfield. Super hard to get past. He's everywhere. He's much like a Kante. And Coates is the leader back there. You've seen Sporting without him against Ajax, where we have a lot of young guys back there. He's sort of the leader. They call him El Patron for a reason. And then Pot is our main goal scorer. A guy like Paulinho, he's very great off the ball. You got to really understand soccer or football to understand what he brings to the game off the ball, because he's everywhere. He's working. He works for the team. But he doesn't score. He doesn't really score. Let's call it how it is. Besides him scoring in the Champions League, he has a few goals, but up front, it's very tough, and you can see Sporting struggle to score without Pot. So I think, going to your point, you are right. We do lack depth in certain positions. One being with Pot. If Pot's out, very shaky. Again, Palhinha and Kovac. Other positions, I feel like we can, shift, and you won't notice too much, but that spine is definitely really hard to replace. Really hard to replace.
So that's Sporting. They're off to the round of 16. The one that's really interesting right now is obviously Benfica. So again, you can see here on the screen, they are currently in third place. They've got 5 points. Barcelona second with 7. Bayern Munich, they're just running away with this thing. They're a perfect 5-0, 15 points. But Benfica has the luxury of playing Dinamo Kiev in the final game, Barcelona versus Bayern. So assuming Bayern gets the job done, wins that game, all Benfica has to do is pull out a W against Dinamo Kiev. Rich, is it possible? Is it going to happen?
Absolutely. And it's in Lisbon too, so there's no excuses. We should have won the first game. The referee really didn't let us. There was a few missed calls there, a red card issue. It was unbelievable. But anyways, no excuses. We're going to beat them. We have to beat them. And we need Bayern to do us a favor. And I can't see why not. It'll be in Munich, right? It'll be in Munich, so it'll be tough for Barca. And it'll be tough for Benfica. Let's get real. It'll be a lot of pressure, but we got the fans behind us, and we got to get the W. Simple as that.
Mitch?
I agree with Rich. There's no reason why we shouldn't be beating a team like Dinamo. I know we had, like Rich mentioned, we had some issues in the first game, but I've been impressed with Benfica this year. Even in the games, and I mentioned it here, even in the games against Bayern. We did not look like a small-minded team. We did not look out of our realm playing against even a team like Bayern, who right now I think is arguably the best club team. Next to your Man Cities and whatnot. Their class is just on another level. So the fact that Benfica, we did beat Barcelona 3-0. Even in the last game, we actually should have beat Barcelona 1-0 if it wasn't for Seferovic's just unbelievable miss. I think I sat in front of my TV with my mouth hanging open for a solid 5 minutes. I could not believe he missed that chance at the end of the game. If any of you guys have not seen it, if you go and watch the highlights from Benfica Barcelona in the 92nd minute, Seferovic misses. He does everything. You guys pick up all over the goalie. He's by himself.
Too much time.
All he needs to do is put the ball in the back of the net, and he doesn't. We should have come out of Barcelona with 3 points already. I think as long as we've got a full healthy squad going into Lisbon, we should get the job done. And then we're just dependent on Bayern, like Richie says, doing us a favor.
I want to just, by the way, say hello to all the Sporting fans that are joining in. So it's nice. Mitch, you said that it would even things up with Rich joining, but with all the people watching it right now, it's clearly all the Lions here.
And I'm going to just
cheer to Jonathan. Cheers,
I'm just going to mention for the Benfica Dinamo Kiev, I'm going to be in Portugal, and I'm going to try very hard to be at that game.
Nice.
Wow.
So we'll see. It'll be my first ever Champions League game if I'm able to make it.
Nice.
So
you know what? I can say I went to a Champions League game, Sporting versus Barcelona, about 4 years ago in Alvalade. It was cool seeing Messi play in person. And Jorge Jesus was the coach at the time. So but it's a fun experience, though. There's nothing like it, especially that first time when you hear the anthem, the Champions League anthem, you get goosebumps or whatever. We can't forget our friends up north, Porto. Again, they're in second place right now, so feeling a little good, but they're also going to be in tough. So they've got Atletico Madrid, which is no easy task. And then AC Milan, of course, also taking on Liverpool. So there's lots that can change there between second and fourth in this group. Does Porto move on to the round of 16, or are they looking to the Europa League? Are they looking to the Europa League?
You know what? Before I start, hats off to Portugal, man. 3 tough groups. Porto in the toughest, in my opinion. Benfica is definitely tough too. Barcelona is not what they were, but they're still Barcelona. and Sporting, obviously Borussia Dortmund and Ajax is no easy task. So first, before I start with Porto, cheers to Portugal. I know we have our rivalries and we bust balls in our chats and all that stuff, but it is good for Portugal. It shows that how big of our league has become. Definitely 3 big teams, and I honestly, for the first time, I correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this might be the first time that 3 Portuguese teams go to the knockouts.
Yes.
I believe
Hopefully.
it's the first time.
If it happens.
So that being said, going on with Porto, I gotta say, man, against Liverpool, they lost 2-0. But man, did they have their chances?
Oh.
They could have got a result this game. They were up for it. They were a big difference from the first game they played Liverpool. I feel like Conceição did that meme. I don't know if you guys see where he went and slapped all the players after the game. Because man, they were up for it. They just got to be more lethal in front of the net. Atletico is one of those tricky teams that, in my opinion, one of the trickiest teams to read in the Champions League, because they can beat anybody and they can lose to anybody. So it's obviously going to be a very tough ask for Porto to beat Atletico, because Simeone is a very organized coach. He's going to be very hard to score on.
And they play well in Europe.
They play well in Europe. They play very well in Europe. But that being said, much like what Benfica has, they're going to be at home and the ball's in the court. So I think they can do it.
Do we know how long Pep's out for?
I'm not sure.
They lost Pep early in the game, and that
big loss for them and Portugal. Ruben Dias, in my opinion, is the best defensive player for Portugal. But that importance Pep has, he hasn't taken that realm yet. And rightfully so. Pep's older. He's been there for a long time. So I do think he's a very important player for Portugal and Porto. But yeah, that being said, I think, both Benfica and Porto, the ball's in their court. And I think they're favored to go through. Well, mostly Benfica. Porto is like 50-50, but like I said, the ball's in their court. So, and hats off to Porto. They played really well.
Christian.
And just go ahead, Rich. No, don't be sorry.
Atletico Madrid are going to have to loosen up, though, because they're in last place. They're not going to be playing their same style, right? They have to gamble, and Porto's going to exploit them. Porto's going to go through. Porto's going to go through. All the Portuguese teams are going to go through, and then it's a matter of who we play next. And then it's a matter of fitness levels, because when you see the difference between Benfica and Bayern, it's not even close. You know what I mean? To last 90 minutes with these guys, these individual guys that they have, they can break you down so easily, so fast, that you have to almost shift where your players are. Like Grimaldo was absolutely torched by Coman, right? And these little individual battles where these guys, these Abralatas, right, these can openers, they make all the difference in these big games, right?
Yeah, for sure.
When you see Bayern loading up Serge Gnabry off your substitute bench, I mean, like, what are we talking about here?
But the thing to remember about Bayern is they're not, as much as they seem unbeatable, they aren't invincible. I mean, they have a tendency, especially coming off of like international breaks or just like little periods of time, they always seem to kind of slip up a bit. I mean, they ended up drawing against like the second last place team in Bundesliga last week. So, I mean, it's not like they're invincible here, but it is, I mean, they are one of the best teams in the world for a reason. Speaking of one of the best teams in the world, one of the best teams in the world, of course, Sporting, and they have a big game coming up. It is the Lisbon Derby, Sporting versus Benfica, Friday, December 3rd. It is going to be huge, and so the question that is really simple. Who wins this? There's 2 Benfica people here. There's 2 Sporting people here. So let's always be nice to our guests. So the guests can go first. So, Rich, take it away. The floor is yours. Say nice things or I'm going to boot you off the podcast. But
well,
Sporting Benfica, Lisbon Derby. What do you got?
I'll start with the formations right away. So you got 3-5-2 versus 3-5-2. And personally, I think Sporting do it better. Naturally, they have the players that can, and the coach that can get those players playing, right? So Benfica had to adapt. They had to buy a center back last year in January. they kind of had to force the situation because they realized the 4-3-3 wasn't working, the 4-4-2 wasn't working. So it's more unnatural for Benfica. But, the difference is that in the midfield, right, we got Weigl and João Mario. These guys can hold the ball well. They can, distribute lateral, vertical, all the keep possession, right? Keep that mixed possession going. But Sporting have that destroyer in the midfield, that Palhinha. He's the natural defensive mid, which Benfica don't have, which makes Sporting a little more versatile in my mind. That being said, it's going to be a tight game like always. All derbies are. We're at home. It's at the Luge. We got the 12th man. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. And it's those individual battles, like I always say, right?
So I want to throw this question out to all of you on this. The game is Friday, December 3rd. Tuesday and Wednesday is the Champions League games. Sporting already guaranteed to round of 16, so they could put their full attention on this Lisbon Derby. You know that obviously Benfica wants to beat Sporting because the Lisbon Derby certainly takes priority. But you also want to stay healthy, and you want to stay sharp, and you want to stay fresh for that Champions League to try and get into round of 16 as well. Does Jorge Jesus address this game any differently, knowing that he has such a huge game a few days later?
I don't think he can afford to.
That's right.
You just can't. You can't afford to. It's such a big game. He's going to have to put. And this is again when the question of depth comes into play. I think we have depth in certain positions that he can make certain adjustments. But at the end of the day, it's a derby. We need to win this. We need to win the derby. And he can play. He can come out. Whether we play Darwin up front or Seferovic or Yeremchuk, like there's depth in that role. Whether we play Everton or whether we go with Rafa or Pizzi or throw in Gonçalo Ramos in a different position. I mean, there's depth there to be effective. To Richie's point, Sporting is going to be very tricky because I really do feel like they have a little bit more versatility, and they're a little bit more dangerous in certain situations.
You can go ahead and say that they're a better team. Yeah,
they're
go ahead
not a better team. They're not. They're not a better team. They're not a better.
No,
team.
that's what you meant, though. We all understood.
They've got certain things that could harm Benfica, and we've seen Benfica be vulnerable a few times this year. And Sporting have a couple of different shoves that they can use to really hurt Benfica. So Benfica has to be careful. So Jorge Jesus, this is going to be very much a tactical battle between Jorge Jesus and Ruben Amorim because they play two very similar styles. Like Richie said, Sporting is a little bit more. They have a little bit more experience in playing that three at the back, either 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. They've got a little bit more experience playing that role. Jorge Jesus is just kind of getting these players into the groove of playing that role. So it's really going to be very much a tactical battle. But at the Luge, at home, last year without fans, you couldn't talk about the 12th man in a derby. It makes a difference, man. It does make a difference. So it's going to be a tough game. I think Benfica gets a 1-goal victory, whether it be 1-0, 2-1. It's going to be a one-goal victory for Benfica. That's my prediction.
Yeah. One thing that Ruben Amorim, and just to add on, putting Portugal into there, is that they have an identity. The players know their role. They know what they got to do. He does not shy away from the 3-4-3. Richie talked, you talked. They're better at that system because he does not shy away from that system. He's been criticized for it, like, oh, why don't you switch this? Why don't you switch this? Why don't you do this, that, this? No, he sticks to his guts. So in that aspect, I do agree with you guys. He is, in terms of the three at the back, I feel like Sporting has the edge a little bit just because they don't shy away from it. But individual stats, I think that all goes out the window in a derby. Derby games are different. Doesn't matter if Benfica is in 12th and Sporting's in first, or Benfica is in first, Sporting's in 12th. Derbies are different. It's all out the window. Players are up for it. much like what Portugal is going to experience with Turkey and Italy. It's just a different taste, different feeling. I personally think it's going to be a lot like the Porto game. They're going to cancel each other out. I could see a 1-1 or a 0-0.
That's kind of what
I know
thinking too.
I know it's not the sexy answer. Obviously, my heart wants Sporting to win, 1-0, and anything can happen in a derby. But I do think it's going to be one of those games where they cancel each other out. It's going to be a 1-1 or a 0-0.
But I tend to agree. Like, I'm thinking about a 1-1 scoreline. But man, oh man, Sporting and Benfica, they just have a history of it is just throw everything out the window and it becomes like a goal machine and everyone scoring goals and it turns out to be this like stupid game, which is entertaining for the fans, of course, frustrating for coaches and so forth. But I do think, though, that there's a lot at play here. I think Sporting is going to be a little bit looser in the sense of, they're feeling a little bit more confidence. They're already through to the round of 16. This is going to be a big week for Benfica, big couple weeks for Benfica. But I still think it comes away with a draw and,
And can I just add one more thing? I don't think every point counts, but I don't think whoever wins or loses, the season's over by any means. I feel like it is obviously every point counts, but it's a long season. I'm going to go out and say, like, I know for me, putting my bias aside, my heart aside, it is another 3 points. Benfica Sporting, although it hits different, it is a derby game, and it's one of the most beautiful derbies in the world. I'm very excited for it. It's 3 points, and them losing 3 points for either Benfica or Sporting against these guys and Marítimo is the exact same thing. So I don't think whatever happens this game, it's gonna, like make them win the cup or not. I think it's just another 3 points. So I just thought I'd add that.
It'll be pretty interesting. A lot of fun. Final thoughts. Go around the room. Mitch.
Final thoughts overall
on anything, whatever.
On anything, yeah, no. Obviously a big week for multiple reasons. I think Christian hit the nail on the head. I think as Portuguese soccer fans as a whole, we've got a lot to be proud of. We've got 3 teams battling it out for the round of 16 of Champions League. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. It only speaks to the quality of the football in Portugal, and I think Jurgen Klopp is admittedly a big fan of the Portuguese league. He said it many times, and there's a reason for it. And I think we all see it. That's why we're doing this podcast. We all see the quality out of the Portuguese league, and it's great to finally see that finally coming to fruition on the European stage in the Champions League. To see our teams going head to head with the best clubs in the world. That's awesome, and we should all be very proud of that. So on a club level, I think it's been a great week. Obviously, at the international level, we're still all very frustrated with the situation with Fernandes and where we find ourselves having to fight it out to be in a World Cup that we should have easily been automatically qualified for. We weren't. We're in the situation where we have to fight for our lives against arguably the best team in the world right now, Italy, potentially. And, that's frustrating for every Portugal fan. So, we're going to have to see what happens come March, but we're all obviously rooting for Portugal, but we'll see what happens. So some big weeks coming up, some big things coming up. Our players continue to do well. Jota got another brace for Liverpool this morning. He continues his big form. Portuguese players all over the map are doing well. So overall, it's been a very positive couple weeks for Portuguese football.
Add 2 more things, sorry. One is
your final thoughts. So these are your final thoughts.
I just wanted to thank Richie for coming on. When we started this podcast, we were really passionate about Portuguese soccer, and for me personally, one of my biggest things is to have my friends come on, and that's what we do, man. We talk soccer. We love it. It's our passion. It runs our life, at least for me. And I just wanted to again thank Richie for coming on. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. Appreciate everything, man. And thank you again, man. It means a lot to us.
I wish I could do this full time, my friend, but it doesn't pay the bills, right?
For sure. And another thing, I just want to ask you guys one more thing before we wrap up here. Do you think Pedro Gonçalves gets called up for the knockout stage?
I mean, he has to.
What are we talking about?
He has to, right? Like, what are we doing here? The guy's in form. It's all about who's in form.
And I don't want to. And I don't want to. I didn't ask that honestly, I know you guys are gonna roast me for this, but because he plays for Sporting, but I'm mostly asking that because he got 0 minutes in the Euro, and it was a big topic for us, and I feel like, that's a big question mark for Fernando Santos. Do you call him up? Do you switch it up, or do you stay with what you know for the 2 knockout games?
How much time do we have? Because do we want to jump into this? He was the leading goal scorer in the Portuguese league. He's the first midfielder in the Portuguese league history to ever win the Bola d'Oro, the Botador in the Liga. This guy should have been implemented. Fernando Santos should have been working to implement this guy into our starting 11 already last year. The fact that hasn't happened is a crime in my eyes. This guy is unbelievable. He is not going to be at Sporting for very much longer. He's going to be going to a big club. This guy's talent is so underrated. The fact that Fernando Santos has not made it a priority to factor Pedro Gonçalves into our starting 11, or at least a super sub into our formation, it all comes down to the fact that we don't have an identity, and that he has not been able to find out how and figure out how to get the best out of a very, very talented group of players.
Yes. Yeah. He's like a mixture of a number 10, number 8, and unfortunately Bruno's there too, right? And he's very similar in that aspect. And it's tough to crack the squad, but when it's all about who's in form. Yeah. It doesn't matter who you play for. If you're in form, you got to get called up. You have to play, and the coach has to figure it out, because these guys all know how to play ball. They all know, man. Right? These guys all know how to play. You just have to teach them which system you want them to play in.
I'm just saying, you're talking about putting people in form and calling them up. Sure. I mean, there's just someone that just happened to show up on the screen right now. I don't know how that happened.
Get him in there.
I love it. I love it. Rich, do you have final thoughts, buddy?
No, Mitch nailed it on the head, man. Very proud to be Portuguese. Everybody's playing well, club level. It's going to be a tough year in the Portuguese league. It's going to come down to the last 2-3 weeks, and then you're going to start doing the math, and when you lost points to that stupid game, and then that's how it always goes, right? And on the international level, again, very frustrating, very hard to see this team not excel. We've dropped levels substantially in my mind. Fernando Santos is stuck in time, right? He's that pre-Mourinho era where these coaches just grind out a result and try to be as efficient as possible, instead of being more pragmatic and progressive and trying to play good football and exciting, attacking, fluid football, right? Some would say that more gambling, but these guys, these old timers, they're hard-headed, and it's going to be very difficult to change his mind. And we'll see if we can get the result against Turkey, and then go from there. You can't look past any game, right? Even Benfica today, we play Bolonenses, the SAD. It can be very tough. Can't even look past this one, right? You start looking at the next games, you start planning ahead too far, and your plan gets out the window, right?
100%.
Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Right? Absolutely, man. Mike Tyson.
You know what? I think that Portugal's certainly in tough with their World Cup draw. I think that we can't look past Turkey. Everyone's talking Portugal, Italy, but I don't think Italy can look past North Macedonia. I don't think Portugal can look past Turkey. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. It would be an absolute shame to see Portugal not go to the World Cup, especially with the embarrassment of riches that we have on this team. But it is very much a possibility. Everyone talks about, and in many ways, rightfully so, places a lot of blame on Fernando Santos. But you know what? The players also have to take some responsibility as well. And I think the players need to step up. They need to get the job done. You saw it in Manchester United, Ole's last game. And, you saw the players saying, hey, blame us, not the coach. And I want to see some of that, also some responsibility, some accountability on the national team. They have a few months to get that right. I do think it's possible. It's not the end of the world quite yet. But if Portugal does end up crashing out, then the Suns era is over. We can start looking ahead to Euro 2024 in Germany. In terms of the Lisbon Derby, hopefully Sporting wins. It'll be a draw, though. If I had to put money, I'd say draw first, and then if I had to put money, I'd probably put Benfica. Then I'd probably put Sporting.
Wow.
But,
my God!
Very nice.
We'll see. We'll see.
You've been revoked.
Christian's going to slash my tires. But, and the final thought, as you saw in that picture, Jota, call him up at some point. I think he's the real deal this year. He's on fire. Take advantage. So
hey, there's a guy in the second division of Portugal that's doing really well too. Maybe we should call him up.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't even compare. Can't even compare. As Christian said, Rich, thanks so much for joining in. A lot of great insights. This was a lot of fun. Too bad about the garbage behind you, but you know.
Hey, I like the color of your sweater you got on there, bud.
Yeah, right. Well, I wanted to feel like I was part of the Benfica crew. I can't just always be sporting here, right? No. Awesome. For Mitch, Christian, Rich, and myself, Kevin, thank you so much for tuning in. And for everyone who was joining in for watching around the world, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the Derby. Enjoy the Champions League game. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Ciao, guys.
Ciao.
Ciao.